Hello YouTube. Alright, this time I want to be talking to you guys about Metatrons Cube. And Metatrons Cube, well, let's not start there, but I'm gonna get on to this thing that's called Metatrons Cube. So, I want to start about ancient Greece. And as well as I can understand it, forgive me if I'm wrong, in ancient Greece they believed that all of the elements on the earth could be classified into these groups, yeah? So like water, earth, fire, wind, and ether. Yeah, that's what it's called. And so I'm not sure, but they had I'm not sure which one is which, but I know that they had certain um certain shapes to represent, we'll say, to represent these elements. I think the square was Earth, or not square, but cube. So we're talking like in 3D form. So I know that the octahedron was the ether. I know that, and it was Plato who first discovered these platonic solids. So there was the tetrahedron, the cube, the octahedron, the dodecahedron, and the isosahedron, and I'll put a photo up. So these shapes would represent the different elements. And the thing about Metatron's cube is that it has all of these different shapes within this symbol of Metatron's cube. And it's a bunch of lines, I'll show it here. But what I want to get across is the fact that it is made up of what is called the fruit of life. And the fruit of life is basically when you see the flower of life, which I've shown before in my other videos, and I'll show it again. So when you see the flower of life, you've got those 19 circles, and they always stopped after 19. And the reason for this, as many people have suggested, and which I find extremely plausible, is the fact that when you complete the circles, so if you look in the center, like the first circle, it's got like the flower, those 6 petals in it, and if you continue that, you can see on the outside, the outer circle, that there are no lines in it because they haven't continued to make that other circle, so you can't see the actual pattern. But if you complete the circles on the outside, so every circle that's on the outside will be covered in those petals, those 6 petals basically, then you come up with this image. And if you take, and what this image will show is how you take each, I guess, center of 6 circles, and the center of it will have the petals in it. And when you take all of these and you plot them out in red, as this photo has done, you can see this pattern, and it's called the fruit of life because it's what's taken from flower of life. That makes sense. To learn about the flower of life, I'm not going to go into it right now, but you can look at my other videos. I explain a little bit of it in there, and I'll be explaining more later on. But so what I want to get across is, if you take, and you can do this yourself, it's really cool. I've done it, and it makes it look really cool. It makes the symbol itself more understanding. Like, I didn't really understand it at first, but then I did this, and it made a lot more sense to me. So what you do is you take this symbol of the fruit of life, and forget the petals inside of it, so just these circles. It's basically yeah, you've got 5 circles going that way, 5 circles going this way, and 5 circles going upward. So it's basically like a star. Or I guess snowflake would be a better representation of it, but whatever. So what you do with this pattern is you draw a line from the center of each circle into every other circle. So every single circle has a certain amount of lines in it because, yeah, you draw a line from the center of each circle into every other circle that there is. And when you do that, you get this this image called Metatrons Cube. And here it is, or the cube of Metatron, whatever you want to call it. And so Plato was the one who discovered this, or at least he's the first one that we have documented that discovered it. But if you look at Plato, he went to study in Egypt for a very long time. He had to study for 20 years before being accepted into the school of Egypt. Many people call it the sacred school, or the secret. I think I said sacred. Sacred school or secret school, they call them both ways, either way. And the cool thing about these schools is that you would walk into basically just this room full of carvings and hieroglyphics and things like that, and the teachings would be on the walls. And so the temple in and of itself would be the teaching. And a good example of this is in Luxor, the Temple of Man. It shows all the different lengths and the dimensions would be a good word to describe it. So it shows all the different dimensions of a ideal human man. And the cool thing about these temples, and something that I've really found fascinating, is that when they were finished one temple, they would take a piece of that temple, they would go and then they would put it in the heart of the next temple that they were going to build. They would start from the heart and they would build out. And as they built out, it would become a fetus, and then a baby, and then a child, and then onward and onward until you have this ideal man, and then it stopped. It wouldn't go into old age. But yeah, I found it very interesting about how they would take this part of the old temple, put it in the heart, so it's like a living piece from the old temple bringing life into the new temple. So I found that really cool. But moving on to Metatrons Cube. So that's what Metatrons Cube is. It encompasses all of these things, and we know for a fact that it does because every symbol, I forget who did it, but there was a famous scientist, and he figured out in, I believe it was the 19th century, that all of the elements on the, I can't even think of it right now, the table of elements, I'm not entirely sure what it's called. Yeah, I think it's called the table of, anyway. So it encompasses all of these things that are on the table of elements, and every single element that is on this table can in some way be linked back to these 5 elements. It can be linked to either water, earth, wind, fire, or ether. And ether is the 5th one. And ether is like the magnetic energy and like gravity and things like that. And that's what ether represents. The rest of them are obvious. But yeah, I just wanted to put in that next bit. So that's Metatrons Cube. I don't know what I'll be talking about next. If you guys got any ideas, let me know.